So, the meaning of life is actually quite simple, yet we often make it out to be so much bigger than it is and put so much pressure on ourselves to do this grand, noble thing that if we're not doing that, then we feel like our life is meaningless. But ultimately, the meaning of life is simple it is to survive and procreate. That is what humans are doing, that is what animals are doing. They're simply here surviving and procreating. The problem with survival is that it's actually quite easy today, but we often forget that for the last several 100,000 and millions of years ago, it was not. And survival was something very hard. Food, shelter, dangerous animals, invading tribes, all of that stuff was actually quite hard. And humans didn't live to the length that we live today. Survival was our primary objective. And with procreation, it's not entirely necessary. There's 8 billion humans today. The big problem we have today is we're way beyond survival and procreation as a human species. And we have so much freedom and safety in our lives that we don't know what to do with it. What's crazy about freedom to me is man will die for it. Man will fight for it. Man will lose everything for it. Man will really move heaven and earth to have freedom. But once he has freedom, he often doesn't use that freedom. He just likes the idea of having it. If you don't believe me, look around. I mean, how many people do you see are really living the life they want and really using the freedom that we have today? If I want, I could go to school, I could travel, I could become a lawyer and a doctor, I could get into politics, I could decide to become a computer engineer, I could decide to become an MMA fighter. I can do what I want and no one's going to stop me other than myself and my own limitations. And that's where it gets interesting is our own limitations are what dictate our true level of freedom. When you have this much freedom, the meaning of life is now not survival or procreation because we are above that. We are beyond that. It is simply the meaning that you give yourself. And that's where it gets interesting. And that's where a lot of people get lost. People think that you have to have some sort of grand, noble ambition that is selfless, some sort of cause that is so big and so mighty that if you don't have that, then you're wasting your life. Well, for most people, that's not going to be the case. Not everyone needs to do that. What is most important is that you are listening to yourself and that you understand who you are. So beyond survival and procreation, now that we have this high level of freedom, what do we do with it? A good exercise for every person to do is to go to the hospital or the ICU and look around. And maybe you can't get into the ICU, but I'm sure there are going to be times when you're at the hospital and you can have this perspective of looking around and looking at people who are running out of time. The other thing is to look at videos on YouTube of someone being sentenced to life in prison without parole, and they are pleading that they are innocent. Just imagine that feeling of losing your life and going to prison and you are innocent. And then go to a funeral or a cemetery and look around at all these people where their time has truly run out. And not to come at this from a morbid perspective, but to look at this from a perspective of I am on an hourglass here, and I don't know how much sand is in the hourglass. That's a really powerful frame from which to look at your life to truly get a good filter of what is most important to you, and to rule out the noise, opinions, approval of other people that drown out your own desires in life. We often ignore them and we kind of hide them. You can now look at your life and be like, I'm not in any of those situations, and those situations are really tough. Let's put something here together that is really easy and simple, because finding meaning in your life shouldn't be this lifelong quest. It shouldn't be this thing where you have to transcend into this other universe and take all kinds of psychedelics to truly understand. No. You don't need to do that. You can actually just break this down quite simply, and we don't need to make something that is actually quite simple so complicated. So let's just look at what other people have done who have found great meaning in their life. And I'm not here to tell you exactly what one is perfect for you, but I am going to recommend the one that I have chosen and that has worked really well for my clients. The first path that people could adopt to have more meaning is, ironically, to go down the nihilistic path or nihilism, which is that life has no meaning. Life is meaningless, which can kind of be empty feeling, but also freeing in that you don't have to pursue this greater cause, and that we are simply just existing in the present moment as animals are, or as nature exists. Nature is just existing and living, and that's it. It just is that. End of discussion. That's it. They do not have to continue down this path of meaning and purpose and understanding of greater tranquility and trying to find nirvana. You can just end. And that is a path that people have chosen. Some humans just are better off not going down this deep philosophical, deep religious path and just want to exist and just live in the present moment. That's okay. The second path is going down the religious path, which every religion has a book and a guidelines and a roadmap to how to find more meaning and success within that religion. And I think that's the beauty of religion and why so many people follow and adopt religious practices, especially in the past when survival was actually really difficult. Religion gave people hope in times of crises and times of hardship and suffering. And if we look back in history, a lot of human history is tough. And the third path is simply creating your own meaning in life, filtering through your values. I believe that living your truth unapologetically is a great way to have meaning in your life. I believe that living in alignment is the greatest leverage that a human can have. So using your freedom to live where you want to live, to spend time with who you want to spend time with, to be in a relationship with the person you want to be in a relationship with, to do the type of work you want to do, to have and actually practice the hobbies and passions that you've always wanted to pursue or that you love already. And from this lens, you could find great meaning in actually just living the life you've always wanted to live. There's just no need to reinvent the wheel. These three paths many people have chosen and have found great meaning within them. Number one, just like life is meaningless. Number two, a religious path. Number three, creating your own meaning, filtering through your values, which is what I have chosen and have found that it has greatly improved my life in so many ways. Some common mistakes that people make when it comes to this is taking advice from people who don't have results. And so I think a lot of people are really smart and they put together really good ideas. And you can just kind of, go online, look at people's books, like look at people on YouTube and all this. And there's a lot of smart people out there. But what we have to do is look at this person's results. Is this person truly living a great life? Or are they just really good at putting together ideas and gaining a following? Because those are two separate things. Actually living the message and the life is actually much harder to do. Who is behind this curtain? And what is this life like? Because if you master what this person is saying, then this is the life that you could expect. And if that life is not a life that you would want to live or be proud of, then I think you should really reconsider. Another common mistake, regardless of whatever path you choose, is simply just living a very passive life that has no intention. Think of it as a consumer. So someone who basically is just consuming content, television, Netflix, playing video games, watching porn. You're very much passive, just consuming what other people are putting on you, versus someone who's living a more intentional, active life where you are out doing, right? You are out surfing, you are out at the gym. If you love to cook, you cook. If you love to fish, you fish. If you love to hike, you hike. If you love to play sports, you play sports. If you love to lead organizations, you lead organizations. So you're out living intentionally and actively. And for a lot of people, that right there is going to be the game changer, because from here, you're likely to fall into greater meaning simply because you're living and acting and pursuing a life of your choosing versus waiting for something to happen, which is a very passive, unintentional, inactive life, is surely a way to drown out the spirit of man. Of course, this person would struggle with meaning. They're simply just being so influenced by other sources that are just vying for their attention that how are you going to find meaning? And honestly, the future of where we're going is going to be harder and harder to live an active, intentional life, because as we live in a Western capitalist world, these companies make money off your eyeballs and off your ears and off your attention. And so it's going to be harder and harder for you to zero in on what it is that you want out of your life, because there's going to be so many influences that are so compelling. I mean, haven't you noticed how today, shows are just so much more engaging, right? Like they really know how to create a show that speaks to your specific taste, or a movie or a video game or even porn. There's just so much distraction out there. More than ever, we need to adopt a more intentional, active life. Otherwise, we will surely fall down a path of passivity. And another mistake is a lot of people feel that their life is meaningless if they're not doing this great, grand, noble thing that is much bigger than themselves. In a couple generations, you probably won't be remembered. And I know that's hard to hear, but likely the truth. I mean, how many of you know your great, great, great grandfather or your great, 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 great like grandfather, right? Maybe if you have 23andMe, you're looking that stuff up, but you don't really know who they are, or have any connection to who they are. The most that we all can likely hope for is that there's a framed picture of us in our great grandchildren's shoebox in the spare bedroom. I mean, to live your life hoping that you matter to these people, I think is not truly living the life that you would want to live, because you're really living for these people that don't exist yet, right? Your great, 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 great grandchildren. We should really live for us and what we have here in our lives. And that can include your family. That can include the people in your life, of course. I think what's important is you just maximize the sand in your hourglass, and you hope that your great, great, great grandchildren also look out for the sand in their hourglass, and they're not living for other people that don't exist yet. A big mistake too is just constantly searching. And I would just say, stop searching and start creating. Start creating the life. Start putting things out there. Start organizing. So actively create versus passively search or passively consume. If you are constantly searching and unhappy with this journey and living a very passive, inactive life, you're very unattractive. And you are going to attract people in your life who are also like that too, which then makes it even more difficult, right? Crabs in a bucket, pull the crab down that's trying to escape. You are the average of the 5 people you most surround yourself with. So when we look at where we want to go in our lives, it is important that you are becoming the type of person that you wish to attract as well, and that you're not trying to just have social skill, but you actually are the person. Now, I want to leave you with this visualization. Imagine that you did live in another life and you messed up that life. You did something wrong, and now in this life you have here today that you're now experiencing, this is your fresh slate. You messed up the last life. This is the time. This is the opportunity for you to seize life. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. This tells me what kind of content you like. This also supports the channel. And then subscribe to this channel if you want to get the future videos and you don't miss out on any really awesome content that I'm creating. There's so many channels out there. If you found value in what I'm creating, please give it a like, please give it a subscribe, hit the bell notification. And if you'd like to go deeper into the type of training that I provide, then what I can do is offer you a bonus training. Just go to the link in the description and have about an hour-long presentation that is just extremely valuable content for those men who want to pursue a much more powerful, aligned, and grounded life while also creating epic relationships. So if you're interested in that, then click the link in the description. It'll take you to a page where you can access that training. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.